we do have time for further debate. I recognize the member from Oshawa.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate this conversation. There's been a lot of interest in this project, as there should be. We are, all of us, privileged to serve in this legislature, in these seats, in this space that has been here for a long time, but democracy has served us well for long before that, and hopefully will continue. There are a lot of pieces, though, that go into this building, but go into what this building represents. And so I'm glad to have the opportunity for a discussion, and I know that we're hearing, and not to diminish people's comments, but we're hearing some warm, fuzzy recollections, right? We're hearing some sentimental things, and that is part of the importance of this space, right? The lasting impression it makes from that positive side. But there are other views. I'm going to just give my first impressions of this space. So the first time I came to Queen's Park was actually on the front lawn, and I was here as a protester, proudly standing up for what we were championing. And I was on the outside of it, and I remember after being elected, standing on a stage and speaking to the people on the front lawn, and realizing that the power of the people, not just in getting one of us elected, but what this building represents to people. It is, a wonderful historic heritage building, and with it, beauty and grandeur and storied past. But with that, also the flip side of that is this is a colonial structure built in a time with a lot of the stories that as we look around, not just this room, but the building, that were stories that said to some people, you are not welcome here. And though we have carved the names of some of the people who this building has not welcomed, but have taken proudly seats in this space on both sides of the House, this building has had to carve those names in its wall, so they will endure in this space. And I tell you that to tell you this. We have an opportunity with a restoration to do impactful, powerful things with this building going forward. The 7 grandfather teaching, the carvings there, we were, I hope, all of us able to attend that service. That was awesome. That was one of those moments in time that you thought, I was there and I remember it. So we're all a part of a process now that, as it unfolds, will unfold probably a lot longer than any of us will be taking these seats, than any of us, will be maybe still having influence in our community. This could be a 5, 10, 15, 20 year, I don't know, but this is a project that needs to be done well. And if all goes according to plan and works and moves forward, we could have a building, a precinct, we could have a space, not just this room, don't just think this room, that reflects the values of this province as it is now and as it will hopefully move forward in the future. We've talked about the importance of including voices, the First Nations voices, Indigenous voices, but communities that have been historically marginalized. So while we're talking about accessibility in this place, yes, I want to think about how differently abled Ontarians access this space, yes, as members, but also as the public coming in to access their house. In these galleries. I think this building and the precinct properties, folks, everybody's done very well to use what we have here to make do or kind of make better, but there is potential to make right. But also accessibility for those who have not been included, not been welcome historically, right? And so for this government, for the next government, for the government after that, as we had the opportunity as the committee to see in Ottawa, successive governments of different stripes have sort of been at the helm of a project that has been able to continue and change a little bit, but all with that overarching vision. I think that's what we need to undertake from this point. So this particular bill is a 3-schedule bill, this Queen's Park Restoration Act. Others have delved into what it achieves and how it is worded, and that's good, but I think that there probably will have to be more to come I anticipate, right, as we are learning what is needed and what this will entail. This is a massive project. And to that end, I want to talk about the privilege that I have, Speaker, is I have been able to work with the committee, the Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs. It's my first time serving as a chair, and if I'm speaking frankly, it's my first time working on a committee that has, to this point, worked quite positively and well in a mostly nonpartisan way. Since I've been elected, I've served on committees, and when you have a government majority, as I have always been sitting opposite, that isn't typical. And I hope going forward it continues to be the case. I know that in this bill that there is a provision to work with our committee. It says consultation reports the minister shall consult with and provide reports to a standing committee of the Legislative Assembly on the general plans. I'm assuming that is the committee that we're a part of that have been doing the work to this point, but we'll see as things move forward. But that committee still is a majority government. So we want to make sure that as we move forward, we see things in the best interest of public access, public accountability. And I don't yet know what the committee will decide to do. Speaker, that's part of the fun of this space, right, is that it's hopefully up to the members. But I'll tell you what has come out of the first interim report. And I say first interim report because and anyone at home who wants to go back and read the Hansards, the public record of the committee, will see that there have been quite interested conversations. I say interested conversations because the committee members have been quite engaged in asking questions and imagining not just what can be done with this precinct, with this building, with the potential, but also that accountability, right? We want Ontarians who pick up this report, sorry, am I using it as a prop? Well, it's the committee report. If Ontarians pick up this report, they're going to see some interesting pictures and not necessarily know how, these bundles of cables, is that enough of a reason to move? Well, it's far beyond that. As the report lays out health and safety concerns, but the nature of a building that's about 100 years old, things have to be changed, things have to be fixed, and they've been doing a beautiful job. A round of applause to the folks in behind the scenes, behind the curtains, who have been making this work, who've been keeping us safe to this point, because they have been doing a fantastic job. But they came to the committee and they made it very clear that this is not sustainable, that we need to look at a full decant or decommissioning, and whether it happens now, should have happened years ago, happens in the future, it is an inevitability for a space that conducts business as important as this. How it's done, though, we need to do right by Ontarians and future parliamentarians and make sure that it is entirely accountable. Speaker, a lot of things happen in this building. In fact, I'm going to talk about Nana Shaw. So Nana Shaw, Margaret Shaw, was the member from Hamilton West, Ancaster Dundas, was her Nana Shaw. And because I asked her, I said, what was the first time you came to this building? And she said, well, you know what, it was to come and visit my Nana Shaw because she worked in the cafeteria. And so, flash forward how many years, and the member from Hamilton West, Ancaster Dundas, comes to this place and takes her seat and thinks, man, I remember when Nana Shaw was in the cafeteria. That's right. But there are a lot of people in this building doing very important work that, make the magic happen, but bring democracy to life. And Nana Shaw could have told you who was nice, who was cheap, who was rude, who ignored her, who took the time to learn her name.
She reported.
Yeah, and she reported it out. Just a reminder to all members, this place does not revolve around us. This place is not just a building. This is a community with a lot of folks doing good work, and they have job requirements. They have a need of a safe and fully utilizable building, right? So I want to take us back in time because I think it's important. We are all connected in Ontario in a way to this building, whether it is because their Nana Shaw works in the cafeteria or because for generations they have been coming and banging on the door and saying, we need better, right? A lot of people interact with this space. So looking at the actual committee report, and I actually encourage members to pick it up and take a look at it. It's been a privilege to do this work. I see members on the other side of the legislature who are members of the committee, members on this side. I see, yes, I see lots of folks in this room. But it's the member opposite, I was referencing him, but he was, yes. So I've got his attention now, which is exciting. So all of these committee members have been very privileged and fortunate to have the tours of this space and learn what goes on behind the scenes and look at it from all of the different angles. We also had the opportunity to go to Ottawa and talk with the folks there, and I encourage all members to read this first report, but I also encourage all members to give some thought to what this building could be, what this precinct could be for their communities. Who in your community cannot access this building? Who in your community is not represented in this space? And who in your community would come into this building as it stands now and say, I'm not welcome here. I can see the history written on the walls, and this place they don't want me here. Because whether that is, and while it's very important to see a new carving on the wall, what also, what can be considered when we work with the heritage experts, right? There's preserving, but there's also a chance to reimagine and create what will become the heritage of this place. When we had the experts, the folks from Precinct Properties Branch and the Deputy Clerk come before us, it was clear, and I'll quote from the report, a full rehabilitation of the building and grounds would allow for, quote, much-needed upgrades to meet modern safety, security, environmental and accessibility standards, and to make the building once again functional for generations to come, end quote. Here's an example. In the 90s, when they took the roof off, there was a massive roof renovation. They went in at that time, and they put in the HVAC units, massive HVAC units. And I've been told they have sort of 25, 40-year life, if well maintained, and they are well maintaining them, because if anything goes wrong, like really wrong, are we going to take the roof off to get them out of there? Because that's just one piece, but it's indicative of a building this age that was not built for modern technologies, was also not built to the safety specs. I encourage all members to walk around this building and count sprinklers. Won't take very long. They weren't put in on the first 3 floors, right? I've had a lesson in the chases and spaces and fire stops and fire damps and all of the things that you can have a special door that would close to cover up a hole so that in the event of a fire, the smoke and the fire can't spread. Oh, but then folks have come in and just drilled holes in for cables because there's nowhere else. This building did not have internet in mind. And even though we talk about wireless now, we think, oh, we don't need wires anymore. Yeah, you do. You still need power, right? So there are different things that I'm in the weeds, but it's worth taking a tour. And as you walk around and you see the beautiful, marble tiles, hand-laid tile floors that we walk on. Mosaic. And you look at that and you say, oh my goodness, are they going to... Well, I asked today on the tour, I said, what are you going to do with this? There are things that heritage-wise that we can't imagine this place without, and that'll be determined by the experts. But heritage has to be at the fore of this, health and safety, accessibility, and we want to hear from all parliamentarians, but all Ontarians really, because there are groups who would say, here's an opportunity. Here's an opportunity for this legislature to partner with a college that does a skilled trades program like we saw in Ottawa. Algonquin College, Carleton, they were doing amazing stuff, really high-tech modeling, and what they contributed was actually relied upon by the different engineers and architects. But again, that was a thoughtful partnership and an opportunity with local students. That is one tiny example. But in this building, and I'm not going to, I'm not going to carry water for this government. The government can justify and whatever, but the committee report, we did important work, and I have every faith in the committee, even the member opposite, even that member. I have every faith that the committee members will hopefully continue to ask those thoughtful questions and invite people before the committee to help to show Ontarians that we're doing this in an accountable way. That said, I don't work for the government. I am the chair of a committee, right? And it is a committee of parliamentarians, and it's supposed to be on behalf of the legislature. So the government has to, on its own, ensure that accountability. We have wonderful expertise in and amongst in this room. So the member from Toronto Centre, we were having a really neat conversation earlier about their work as a councillor, and at the time this, I think, was part of their ward, but about protecting the view shed when there has been, I forget what they told me about which building, but having to go to the speaker at the time, that no one else seemed interested in protecting the Queen's Park view shed, as it was called.
Stevens. Or Peters.
It was Steve Peters was the speaker at the time that kind of realized, you know what, we have an opportunity here that with the construction that was encroaching, if we don't protect that view shed of Queen's Park, it will be lost. So that was important work done at that time. This is going to be a broader community, not just the City of Toronto and the folks that live around here, but Ontarians will be watching and they'll want to see this is done well and thoughtfully for generations. That idea of future-proofing it. This can't be... I hope that the folks at home who are, maybe interested in this project, I do hope that there will be an opportunity for them to weigh in, share their expertise, shape this project, and the transparency, the accountability, we really do have to keep that at the fore at every turn. So creating a secretariat, I still have some questions, but it's more because this is a new thing. And what will this look like? How will we make sure that the accountability, all of that, because there's going to be money flowing, there's going to be decisions that are tough to make. So we want to make sure that that is all accountable. But remembering and keeping at the heart what this building means to people and how it can best operate. Please read the report about designated substances like asbestos, the future needs of technology and what that could look like. We have shafts in this building. They call them chases, I guess. Here is one example, and I'm not sure why I'm focusing on this specifically, but we can look at this place and think it looks pretty good. But then talking to Precinct Properties, and from the outside, they saw a little damp spot on the wall, and they thought, that doesn't belong there. And that was an indication of a leak from the steam pipe that went up in the chase through the outer wall. And so then when they started looking for that leak to fix, of course, you've got layers of wires and cables, and there was like a power cord that had been cemented in a floor that didn't belong. You've got the steam that is outdated and problematic for lots of reasons. The original piping from when this building first started. But no matter where you look, there's something to fix. And I could speak also at length about what we learned in Ottawa, but Ottawa is its own project, and it's a global leader, and different jurisdictions, ourselves included, have been learning from them and will continue to. And as the chair of the committee, I look forward to moving forward with that work with the committee. Hearing from members, if members fill out a survey and say, I want a pony, chances are there's no way you're getting that pony. But I don't believe that members want that. I think members in this House recognize that this isn't about us. This is about future generations of parliamentarians, access to this building. Do we focus on education? Do we focus on how folks are invited in, how they can see what happens, how they can participate in what happens? But I do think that we have a very important opportunity to do this well, to do this right. And so, Speaker, with that, I will again remind everyone that this report just came out the other day. Please read it. If for no other reason than look at the pictures of what's behind the walls of this space. but if you have questions and you want to be involved, I know that this is going to be a long-standing project that is inviting input for accountability and for a really remarkable future for democracy, I hope. Thank you.
It's now time for questions. I recognize the member for Kitchener-Conestoga.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member from Oshawa, obviously representing us as the chair of the Procedure and House Affairs Committee. She's done a great job, in my estimation, so far, and I think we have the vice chair clapping along over there, so he's in agreement. But I guess when we talk a little bit about oversight, that the member had mentioned that a couple of times through her speech, and I wondered if maybe she could touch a little bit on some of the things that we've heard so far from the committee. Things that we can talk about that were not necessarily in camera sessions, but and how some of those things have already started to kind of feed into where we're going, what we're looking at doing, and kind of what's coming next from the committee perspective.
Back to the member from Oshawa for response.
I appreciated seeing this bill because it kind of clarified as a chair of a brand new committee and first-time chair. I'm also interested in seeing what the committee, the potential that the committee may have in their role, not just their responsibility, but their opportunities. And this government secretariat, that section about, interacting with and reporting to the committee, I'm not steering the committee, but I know that the committee members, based on the thoughtful conversations, are interested in knowing about the decant and how things fit, because the committee, frankly, doesn't work for the government, but should be able to work with the government on a project like this. So whether it's oversight, whether it's interaction, all of that I know will unfold, and I hope that it is in a way that reflects the work of the committee so far.
Further questions? I recognize the member for Hamilton West, Ancaster, Dundas.
Thank you, Chair. I want to actually start by congratulating the member from Oshawa as the chair of this committee, and all the members of this committee. You've done a lot of hard work, so thank you. And you've identified in your remarks tonight, but I'd like you to maybe say a little further for the people to be reassured, because the committee structure reflects the makeup of this House, and we know that the government has a majority. And we've had some experiences where they've used their majority for things that we think that are haven't been in the best interest of the people of the province of Ontario. So how can you assure all the members here, and even the people of the province of Ontario, that this will be a truly democratic process, and that all people's ideas will be considered and taken into account, and there will be good accountability on such a massive project?
Back to the member for response.
That's a really good question, and I have the same one. Thank you for saying that the committee's done hard work. They have, but they've done neat work so far. We've done work, but it's been really special to learn, to see what's happening in Ottawa and all of that. But I think the next stretch for this committee and the next committee and all of the different folks involved is about being thoughtful and bringing the experts before us to shape this project, not in our own image as parliamentarians, right, but talk to the architects, the heritage experts, the accessibility the experts, Indigenous communities, right, create that. So the balance in a committee, I don't know, I feel like as chair I shouldn't, but anyway, I hope that it continues to reflect the voices of all members, and I look forward to doing that work.
Further questions? I recognize the member for Kitchener-Conestoga.
Don't all get up at once, guys. My gosh. So let's talk a little bit about the committee. I think we've worked very nonpartisanly so far. I don't think there's been any really overly contentious things that have kind of come from, let's say, a government majority. And at least, correct me if I'm wrong, the member from Oshawa, but I think we've all been quite collegial and have gotten along very well and are, in fact, doing things in the best interest of Ontarians, of course, and also to represent our fellow parliamentarians and the staff here at the legislature. So I just don't see anything from my perspective so far that leads to that type of assumption. But maybe the member could elaborate a little bit more on some of the good things we've been able to accomplish through the committee so far.
Back to the member for response.
Well, this interim report is the first example, and we'll continue to do that work. And it's not about being partisan or not, but the balance. Like, I just want to make sure that the work of the committee and the work of the Secretariat takes into account the independence, the official opposition, individual government members, because there'll be different opinions on government benches as well, right? We want to talk about sustainability and green opportunities. We want all of that. So it will be up to the committee to bring forward, I think, ideas for who they want to talk to and that. And I hope that is fulsome and comprehensive work that isn't met with any kind of resistance. I'm not anticipating that would be, but we may hear from folks who say things that the government doesn't want to hear. So what? This is the time to gather that, put it together in a way that the next governments who are following through on this project can factor in. So that's what I'm hoping will happen. Thank you.
Questions. I recognize the member for Humber River, Black Creek.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I really want to congratulate all members of the committee, and especially the chair. It's an honor and a privilege to work with her. She is, I think, an excellent selection. She's so detail-oriented. She really, really takes this job seriously, and I think she will amazingly well serve this committee as being its chair. And when I think about it, it must be so exciting, the tours, learning so much about the history of this building, what's going well for it, some of the deficiencies, maybe some of the things that would have been okay 100 years ago, not so much these days. But it also, and I know this is probably dawned on the committee members, but it's certainly dawned on me, this is a real legacy. The members that are a part of this committee really have a hand in the history, the future, which will become history one day. And so I think it must be such an honor for you. So my question is simply this. This project is so big, it's not just about this building, but it's about what's going to happen when the work is happening, where are we going to go? And I guess, would you be able to share with us some of what you're looking at in terms of finding another location for us? What are some of the things that you're looking at?
Back to the member from Oshawa.
Okay, that was a lot of praise. Thank you. It's a lot of responsibility, though. I think the committee members, recognize that, and that's what I said earlier, that it's been neat and interesting work to this point, but it better be hard work, right? It better be important work, and, we have a significant responsibility to do our due diligence, to gather information. Ultimately, the Secretariat and the government, those pieces they'll be making decisions. Like, it is not relevant what I or any individual committee member thinks about what would be a good space, for us to decant into or multiple locations. But that work, hopefully we can work, like the government ministry will do its part. We'll figure out how the committee fits, because there's a lot at stake. All the folks who do the work behind the scenes, forget us. We just have to stand in a room and talk. Any one of us can do that. Yes, there's a lot involved. Thank you to the broadcast folks, I know. But everybody in this building has job requirements. So wherever we go, they need to be factored in and considered. And that's a truckload of work just for the decant. So I hope it's done well.
I recognize the member from Mississauga Malton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is such a monumental bill. I was listening to the member from Kitchener-Constega, and I just want to say one thing. I don't know if I'll be able to come back to the new building, but definitely I know my daughter will be coming, hopefully. And so my question to the member from Oshawa is simple. When you're looking for another space, can you please advocate for the riding of Mississauga Malton? It is right next to the airport, a lot of greenery, and I think everyone can get the benefit. You come out of the airport, you can go, come back, and again, once this building is ready, I think it's a great building going to be. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Back to the member for response.
So I'm going to say to him what I'm going to say to folks that already are showing an interest broadly in the community. I'm not the deciding factor. Please direct your thoughtful comments to the committee, to the clerk of the committee. But I think that the committee will be, as far as, now I'm standing as the chair. Okay, well, the committee is likelier than not. I think we've almost got quorum here. We'll be inviting different ideas, but I know that the ministry, the Secretariat, is doing actual work, like out in the world. So perhaps talk to the minister, and I know we all have thoughts and opinions, but that's on the decant. That's on the next, what is that, 10, 15 years? I don't know. I'm guessing. I know nothing more than anybody else in this room about how long it will take. But as far as Mississauga Malton, I
Further